Accessibility versus efficiency. The legal battle between the EEOC and American Airlines, the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC, has filed a lawsuit against American Airlines, alleging that the carrier failed to provide reasonable accommodations for a blind reservations agent. The case has evolved into a complex legal dispute over discovery, the process of gathering evidence, specifically regarding whether the airline's software could have been made accessible through assistive technology. The timeline of a 4-year absence, the dispute centers on a long-term employment conflict that began years ago. The facts of the case follow a specific trajectory. 2012. The employee was hired as a reservations agent. 6 months later, following an injury, she was placed on medical leave due to permanent cortical blindness. 2016. After 4 years of unpaid leave, the agent requested to return to work. She proposed a part-time schedule and the use of JAWS, job access with speech, a widely used screen reading software, which would have been configured by state-funded agencies. The refusal. American Airlines declined the request, stating they could not accommodate her in her original role. However, the EEOC alleges the airline failed to investigate whether the JAWS software could be made compatible with their internal reservation systems. The search for alternatives. While the airline promised to look into transferring her to a different role, the agent claims she was never seriously considered for any other positions. Termination. After years of stagnation and a third-party evaluation that suggested software accessibility issues could be remediated, the airline took no further action. In 2020, amidst the pandemic, the employee was terminated. The core legal conflict. The discovery dispute, the current legal battle, is not just about the termination itself, but about how much evidence the EEOC is allowed to see. The EEOC is requesting to inspect and test American Airlines software to determine if it truly could have been made compatible with accessibility tools. This is a critical question. Could the airline have fulfilled its legal obligation to accommodate the employee, or would doing so have caused undue hardship? The airline's defense, American Airlines, is resisting this request on several grounds. Software evolution. They argue that because the software has changed significantly since 2016, testing current systems is irrelevant to what was possible during the period in question. Scope and security. The airline claims the request is overbroad, covering 58 different software systems. They also cite concerns regarding cybersecurity and the protection of sensitive customer data. Prior testing. They maintain that a third-party test had already indicated that full compatibility could not be guaranteed. The EEOC's position. The EEOC argues that because they are seeking reinstatement for the employee, not just back pay, the current state of the software is highly relevant. They contend that if the airline claims accessibility is impossible, they must allow independent testing to prove it. Why this matters? The broader context. This case highlights a recurring tension in disability law. The balance between a company's operational efficiency and its legal mandate to provide reasonable accommodations. Under the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, employers are generally required to modify work environments or tools to allow qualified individuals with disabilities to perform their jobs, provided it does not cause the company significant difficulty or expense. This case raises a fundamental question for the corporate world. At what point does the technical effort required to make software accessible cross the line from a reasonable accommodation to an undue hardship? Furthermore, the EEOC's aggressive stance is likely influenced by history. In 2017, American Airlines and its subsidiary, Envoy Air, settled a similar nationwide lawsuit with the EEOC regarding the failure to determine if accommodations would allow employees to return to work. Conclusion. The resolution of this case will likely hinge on a compromise regarding discovery, limiting the EEOC's testing to specific, relevant systems while addressing the airline's security concerns. Ultimately, the court must decide if American Airlines' failure to investigate software compatibility constituted a violation of disability rights or a legitimate response to technical limitations.